Hello, welcome to JAV Show. This is Jorge.
And this is Viv.
And we're back. Well, not back. We've been here.
Nice.
How's your week, Viv?
We've been here. It's been pretty busy. Let's see, what did I do this week? On Sunday, I guess, was my busiest day. I went over to Carmen's place and we had her tea ceremony.
Oh, nice. How did that go?
It was pretty exciting. So it was a combination of her tea ceremony and her legal wedding.
Oh.
And it was done at her now husband's parents' house. And I was the one who commissioned their wedding.
Yep.
So that was quite the honor. I wedded Carmen and Jordy. And the cute thing is, they asked me to wed them because I was the one that set them up together.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really cute that they asked me. And then also on Sunday was our playoff game. And this is the first time I ever won first place.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah.
Like first overall, right?
Yeah, first overall.
I don't think I've ever won first overall.
Yeah, pretty crazy. This year or this season, EVP is giving out backpacks.
Oh, nice.
But I don't use backpacks. So
yeah, I would personally like the sweater more.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask for a sweater instead. But yeah, so that was a really busy Sunday. It was really eventful.
Wait, don't you
really
just
nice.
get what you get?
Oh, okay, well, the backpacks didn't come in yet when we won.
Oh.
And so they gave us a box of donuts from Donut Party with a message that said, like, oh, your backpacks aren't here yet, but here's a box of donuts in place of that until they come in. And then we were... Some of the people on the team were asking if we could actually have the half sips instead, me being one of them, because I was really looking forward to getting a half sip because I don't actually use any backpacks. And the people at the front desk said that we could just message Carly and ask her.
Oh, I see.
So yeah. But yeah, Carmen's wedding was so much fun. It was so cute seeing everyone there and seeing everyone cry and yeah, catch up with everyone.
You like seeing people cry? I like that.
Yes, I love seeing people cry. Happy tears. Yeah, that's how Sunday went. And then on Wednesday was Lumi's birthday.
Oh, Lumi's birthday.
Yeah.
She's turning 6, right?
5.
5. Oh, she's 1 year younger than Tara. Okay.
She's one whole 5-year-old baby. Kind of crazy.
Did you do anything?
I worked from home and I kind of spent the whole day with her. I went biking with her and then I brought her to the dog park. And then we went to the pet store and I bought her some treats and then I bought her a couple new toys.
Yeah.
And then we went on a long walk around the neighborhood afterwards and I just played with her at home.
That's so nice. I think every time Tara's birthday for like the last 3 years, I've been away from home.
What a bitch.
I know. Where was I last time? I think last one I was in France. And the other one I think I was in Toronto.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Are you going to be here on his next birthday?
Yeah, it should be.
Unless I book a trip.
Yeah, that's actually legitimately what I was thinking. Because I'm booking a shorter trip this fall, so I want to book. I'm seeing if there's a good place to go. Also, like, because my trip's only like, I think it's Friday to Wednesday or Saturday to Wednesday, something like that. So I was like, oh, maybe I can book another one since I will have a
where
bit
are
more
you
time.
going?
Like the trip I already booked, or where do I want to go?
Where you want to go?
I was thinking a short trip to somewhere in the States. Like I was debating, I was like, I could book a trip to like Vancouver, and that's like $200 a person for flights, around 200-ish. And then there are some deals right now, but I don't know if the deals are still available. But there's like $300-ish to go to like Austin, Texas.
Oh shit! You're gonna visit the NASA Space Center?
No, I think that's Houston.
Oh, right, you're right. That is.
Yeah, that's like pretty far. I think that's like 3-4 hour drive. But then, yeah, I was just thinking, I was like, maybe not. Should I do it or not? Like some of these, I can justify going on vacations, but some of these like shorter trips, like going to Vancouver, it's like, I spent $200 just to go there and back, rent a car for probably like $100 some, and all these other things. I was like, I could just get like a really good meal here with Joyce.
There's a new omakase place here
in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of many restaurants here, anyways.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I end up just like, I feel like if you spend just that little bit more time and get good ingredients, you can make something really amazing here.
That's true.
Rather than like going out, like if I had $70, which is like about a night out with Joyce for dinner, so I think that's pretty average.
Yeah.
I could get some pretty nice like meats or seafood and make some like really, really good food.
You're right.
Right.
I really want to do a night where I have like a dinner party or something, and then I use like more expensive ingredients like caviar. Make dishes like that. I think that would be so fun.
I'd love to do that. I just feel so awkward if it's like, oh yeah, we'll all chip in for the food. And
Really?
it's like,
I feel like
kind of
if
weird.
everyone was invested in the experience, they would be down.
Yeah, I don't know what I have a. It's not a shame thing. It's just like I feel so awkward asking people for money when I'm like inviting them over and shit.
Oh, me too.
But I was like, you know, it would help the whole experience out if, you know, if we split everything.
Yeah.
Right? Like I could spend like $150 on groceries and then I would just spend my time cooking. And if there's like 5 of us, that's like $30 each. And we'd have like an amazing meal.
When I have my own place, I'm going to host dinner parties.
I think I would do that too. But I think I would keep it pretty small.
Yes. Like 4 people type of thing.
Yeah. Like usually if I make a lot of food at home, I either just eat it with like Joyce and my dad, or I go over to my sister's and I like give her some and like eat with her. Or I'll go to like one of my friend's house and then we'll do like a semi potluck thing. It's essentially a potluck, but I just want to make something like kind of special. That's why I made that. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels so awkward. It's like, yeah, you want to come over and eat, but then you have to pay me.
Okay, I wouldn't be like that.
You know what
I think if I hosted a dinner party, I would for sure just cover the whole thing.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a very good experience. Or not. I like the way I'm saying this. Started off wrong, but for me, it's a very self-rewarding experience to even host one and cook it and do all that stuff.
Yeah, it's just I feel like I can't do it as often if I have to buy everything, and I also don't have my own place, so like I'd have to like quote unquote host a dinner party, but then go to my friend's house to do it, and then yeah, like if I had to buy everything, it would just be tougher, right? Like if we all split, they'll be like, oh, it's actually like. We could do this every month or something like that.
I get that.
Because when you split it, it actually becomes the same, if not even slightly cheaper than if you were to go and eat with your friends.
That, yeah.
Yeah, right. Like if we went to go hot pot, it's like what, $40 now at least?
Yeah.
Like if we had 4 of us, $40 each, $160, I think you can get some pretty good ingredients with that money.
I agree. Unless you're getting caviar, then that's literally.
Yeah. But then if you're paying $160 yourself, it's like, I don't know if I can do this all the time.
That's true.
Right.
That's true.
But maybe it's just me being greedy on that.
No, I don't think so. I think it's very reasonable.
Yeah, because it's the other thing too. Like I don't really consider and I don't really care for it, but it's like I am spending a lot of my time doing this too. Like I'm like spending my entire Saturday doing this, right? But I'm okay with it because for me, I actually enjoy doing this. Like I think for me, it's literally like a monthly or every month and a half thing. Yeah. I like to make some really good food and then just eat at home and not like go out. But yeah, like I said, I also don't go out that much just because I just don't feel the value of some restaurant food.
I do agree. I feel like I don't go as often anymore because every single time I go to eat, I think, oh, I could make something way better at home. That would be so much more fulfilling at home than anything that I have eaten here.
There's some things though I wouldn't agree with that sentiment. One is like pho.
Oh yes,
I feel like the amount of time and actual cost it takes to make pho is actually about the same if you go out to buy a bowl of pho.
I agree. Like, or Gom Dam Sung at Miss Saigon. Yeah. I think they make it so well there that I wouldn't care to try it myself.
Like, I think if you actually made pho by yourself at home, first you have to make a large pot. And I think at the end of the day, with all ingredients told, I think it's still about like $8 to $10 a bowl.
I agree.
Like, with all the ingredients told and you made a big pot, and let's say you can have like 15 to 20 bowls of pho with that big pot, I think you still average around like $8 to $10 a bowl. And then if you go out, it's like $15. So it's like, it's not that much of a difference, and you don't have to spend like 2 days cooking.
I agree.
Right.
Making pho at home is not the same at all.
Yeah, I think that pho and buns is the other one. Like Hong Kong bakery buns. It's not like I understand you can make it at home. It's not that difficult, but it's like $3 for a bun. Yeah, and then the effort it takes for me to make that bun is like way more than $3. You know what I mean?
Really?
Like it might cost me like $1.50 to make it, but it'll also cost me like a day.
Okay, yes. The time waiting in between for sure.
Yeah, just because like you have to prep the dough almost like the day before you even want to cook it, right? And all that stuff. And I know to some people it's like, oh, it's really easy. It's like, yeah, it's easy if you do it all the time. But say you have a craving that one weekend for like a tasu bao, like I was like,
yeah, that takes
like
a lot.
you just pay the $3, right? Especially tasu bao because you have to make the tasu and then you have to like cut it up and cook it in a sauce and then make the bun and then
put it together and then cook it like that.
yeah. Because I think I've done that once where I made my own tasu bao and I was like,
I remember.
I'm never doing this again. I was like, this is way too like those are the little things where I was like, I'd much rather just pay the money for this.
I agree.
Yeah, but some things I can't justify, and that's like going out for a burger at like semi fancy restaurant, like semi fancy as in like anything Boston pizza and any higher tier. It's like $15-ish for a burger.
I agree.
And I was like, I can't just bring myself to do it.
I agree. I will never do it intentionally, even though I just did it yesterday. But I did it yesterday because it was like the volleyball season dinner.
Yeah, it's like you're going with a group of friends. Okay, like I feel awkward sometimes because like I just went to slow pitch. Oh, I just had a slow pitch tournament this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The slow pitch is surprisingly difficult. Just because you're like running and then stopping and then running and stopping. So like in volleyball, you kind of do that, but you're not going that far. You're not going that fast.
Yes.
Right. But in slow pitch, it's a bit more intense. And then when I was playing like right fielder, and then like after or during our outfielding inning, I have to run all the way to the outfield, and then we get, if they get 3 outs, I have to run all the way back, and then I just have to keep doing laps, right? So it's surprisingly tiring. So I was really sore from that. But anyways, we went out for drinks like midday through because it's like, white people, slow pitch, they all want to drink all the time. It's like 5 something for a drink. I'm like, okay, well, I'm just not gonna order food. I felt awkward at first because like, okay, so we all
you brought your own food, right?
Yeah, like half of us didn't order food because we didn't have time. It's like, oh shit, our next game is coming out, we can't order too much food, right? So they're like only appies and stuff. So I was like, oh shit, I'm just not gonna order food. And then while we were sitting, I was like just bringing all this food that I brought, and I just kept eating it.
Why do you feel awkward about that?
I feel like it's like a social thing where it's like when you go out. Oh, actually, maybe I consider it like a race thing, but I feel like a lot of white people, when they go to these events and stuff, they always like get drinks and get food and stuff when they're out. Either at a restaurant or at the event, they'll like buy some food or some drinks, and like I'm the only one like pulling out a banana and like pulling out a box of sandwiches and shit.
I actually, whenever I see people do that, I kind of admire them more.
Spend money?
No.
Oh.
When they bring out their own food.
Oh.
And the reason why is because I think I see it as, you actually care about what you're eating.
Oh, no, they're
and
poor.
And the value behind what you're eating. And so that's why you're bringing this.
No, they're probably poor like me.
Usually, I would imagine, because usually most of the time, it's higher quality, or it's more filling, or it's more healthier than whatever you could buy at the place.
Yeah.
So like at tournaments, at events, and whatever, I actually see that as a good thing.
That's what I think, at least. I just think it's just, I don't know, I just don't want to like buy the shitty food that they offer that's like overpriced, and I probably won't enjoy it, kind of thing.
That makes sense. I see it as being really prepared.
Yeah. But anyways, going back to the original topic of food that I think I would rather pay for than make myself, I think it depends where, but I think like some Chinese food I would actually rather pay for. Like Taipei stuff. I feel like I can't make it as well as they do.
Oh, that's true.
Like
you can't get the smokiness and the wok flavor as well.
Yeah, like the fried rice or the noodles and shit. I just feel like, I don't know, to make it well, it just takes so much effort.
I actually would say the noodles from Noodle Feast. I would also rather get it from there too.
Yeah, like I have made my own noodles, and they do taste really good when you hand make noodles.
Yes.
But I don't do it often because it's an effort.
Yes, I agree. The effort part takes a while.
It's a very intense effort. Like you have to do quite a bit, in my opinion, to really make good noodles.
Oh, or frying things like fried chicken.
Oh, I think the problem is like the oil. Like, what do you do with all that oil?
I know, it feels like such a fucking waste.
Well, I don't throw it away. I use it, but it's not good oil either.
I know.
It's like shit oil. But for me, I hate wasting stuff at home.
I know. And then like for me, it's like I don't fry that often or eat oily food that often. So if I decide to fry something once, that oil, either I get someone else to use it, or else I'm like 9 times out of 10 not gonna be able to use it all.
Dude, I feel like when I fry stuff, I want to fry everything. I was like, this is like, we're gonna use this oil to death. We're gonna like fry everything I can find out.
And then you feel so gross afterwards.
Yeah, that's true. You feel pretty gross. Or like sometimes I have like a beer batter, and I'm making like fish, right? Like fish taco with a beer batter, and then I have batter left. I was like, what the fuck do I do with this batter? I don't want to just throw it away.
I know. Then you batter up fucking everything.
Yeah, and then I tried to like just deep fry the batter itself, and it's pretty gross.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking disgusting. So I was like, okay, I think this is the limit of what I can deep fry and stuff. But yeah, I think that too. So like fried chicken, I feel like I would rather pay for it, but I also don't crave that as much as other stuff.
Oh yeah.
Right. So I don't crave that as much as like the other stuff I said, like the Chinese buns and the pho and all the other things. So I'm kind of okay to like not go there as often. I'm trying to think if there's anything else super intense.
Sushi for sure.
I'll be honest, I've never made sushi at home before.
Oh, I make it sometimes.
I've made pretend sashimi. I just buy fish and then freeze thaw and then just cut. I'm not. There's no technique to it. I'm just literally just fucking cutting raw fish and eating it with soy sauce.
I feel like that's still sashimi. It's just lower.
It's just fucking shit quality. There's no QC involved in this. I don't even know the fucking fish I bought is okay for sashimi.
I do that too.
Yeah,
kind of regularly. Actually,
but I think, let's say like 1 of 3 times, I got like a sore throat or something after it. I was like, maybe this isn't the best. Like, I can't directly blame the sushi because most likely I got the cold bacteria or virus from someone else, right? So it's typically transferred from people to people. But then when you eat something that's not as good for you, your immune system has to work a bit harder, and then it goes overboard, and then all of a sudden you get sick, right? So I don't know, but I don't do it as often anymore. I feel like I don't have that craving as often anymore too.
Really?
I feel like
you're freaking
like a 10-piece salmon sashimi thing would be enough to satisfy that craving. Like back then I'd need like the Zen fucking 30-piece limit and just eat like crazy with salmon sashimi until I'm satisfied. But now I feel like, okay, a solid like 10-piecer, that's nice, big, fat, and chunky, and then I'm good for the next like month, 2 months of cravings for that.
That's wild. I have to eat salmon at least like once a week.
But is that like sashimi style or like cooked though?
Oh, like any kind of style.
Oh yeah. No, I'm talking about like the sashimi style. I only crave it like once every 1 or 2 months.
Oh, if I could have it like every couple days, I would have it every couple days.
I mean, yeah, that's a pretty shitty. That's a really hard if, you know. Like for me, because I eat so much fucking meat during the week. So in a week, I eat like at least 2 kilos of meat. And salmon is usually double the price of normal meat.
That's so expensive.
It's usually like $30 a kilo, whereas like decently cheap. Actually, I would say even more on the more expensive side of meat is like about $15 a kilo. And like if you really want to cheap out, you can go like more for pork, and that's closer to like $8 to $10 a kilo. It used to be closer to 6, but you know, like fucking inflation and stuff. And then it's just so hard to justify that. It's like, oh, in 1 week I could spend $60 on my meats, or I could spend $20.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like, fuck, I don't know if I can justify it.
I know.
But I mean,
But for me, it's like a guilty pleasure they give into you every single time.
Yeah. I feel you. No, for me, I'm just, ever since I finished my half beef, I'm still debating if I want to buy more. I feel like when I bought the half beef, the meat was at, like meat in general was at a lower price. So then it felt a bit more expensive. But then I feel like their price has probably also gone up with the general meat cost.
Yeah.
So then again, I'll still feel like it's a bit expensive. Because I feel like it's about the same price as if you were to go and buy meat. It's just slightly higher quality. But I wouldn't say it's cheaper. Maybe even a little bit more on the expensive side.
Oh, really?
Just because half the meat you get is ground beef. So half the meat you get is like considered expensive. Because it's like on the pricier side per kilo.
Yeah.
And then the other half, it's a better value, right? Like the really nice cuts of steaks. Yeah, you're getting good value if you average out the whole thing. But half of it is ground beef. So it's like, it's not that great.
Oh, that's true. I can see that actually.
Yeah. So it kind of depends. I think I'm just going to slowly work on just buying stuff from Costco for now. Don't know if there's a better option right now.
I personally always buy most of my protein from Costco, and then I section it out into portions and put them into freezer bags.
Yes,
and then,
that's what I do too.
Yeah.
But I'll see. I'm not sure the Costco Business Center has a better deal or not. Like, I'm okay with buying bulk. The thing is, like, I just need a good deal if it's bulk. because I'm sacrificing freezer space for it, right?
Yeah.
So that's the trade-off. All right. Anyways, today we're gonna talk about. I think it was you, Viv. You said you want to explain the thingy.
So the last podcast that I listened to was from The Diary of a CEO with Steven. What's his face?
Wait, before you go on, did you listen to the Neuralink one?
Oh, yeah, I'm still listening to it.
Yeah, it's a long one.
It is a long one, but yes, I was listening to it on my way to Pholleyball yesterday and back.
Yes.
Anyways. I was listening to the Diary of a CEO podcast, and the last one that I listened to was...
Is that guy Trevor? Is his name Trevor or something? He's the black British dude.
Yeah.
I forget his name. I only catch his stuff once in a while, not all the time.
Which ones do you remember?
Just whatever like baity topics titles they have on YouTube, then I see it. But other than that, I don't follow it really religiously.
So it's Stephen Bartlett.
Oh, okay.
The guy's name. But anyways, the guest on this episode was Paul Brunson, and the title of the podcast was "The 70-30 Body Shape is Scientifically the Most Sexy, the One Question That Predicts Divorce, and the Link Between Childhood Trauma and Sex." So the actual reason why I was roped into listening to this one wasn't because of anything to do with the title. It was more so that I was listening to another podcast and this one came on next. But I had it playing while I was doing chores around the house, and it brought up a few topics that I thought were really interesting. So I wanted to ask you, what do you think your attachment style is? For relationships, there are usually, I think, 4 main attachment styles. The first one is an avoidant attachment style. The second one is, I think you can pull it up. The second one would be a secure attachment style. The next one is anxious attachment style. And the next one is, the last one is
what's a better search? I just searched
disorganized.
Paul Brunson attachment style.
I think if you just searched up attachment styles. The last one is like disorganized attachment or something like that.
Okay, secure, anxious, avoidant, disorganized.
Yes. Which one do you think you are?
Let me
pull one up that has better examples.
Oh, this. What do you want to pull up?
Any of those that have just more examples.
This is related to relationship, right?
Yes. Or you can do I think relationships.
There's a lot of words here. Something's important.
Go with romantic, friends,
Wait,
family.
Who invented these 4 things?
It's
Aaron Doyle. Is this guy?
I'm not exactly sure who invented it, but it was a regular study thing.
Do you completely believe it?
I do.
Do you ever? I forget which one. There was something that it was like the Freudian stuff. It's like some of it is kind of BS and some of it's kind of realish, but I don't know. Okay, let me see. Of these 4 styles in my relationship, I think.
Go with this one. This example.
Okay, there's secure, anxious, avoidant, dismissive, avoidant, fearful. I think I used to be anxious, probably like when I was 16 to like I was like 21, let's say. And then I think like say 23 plus or 24 plus, I've probably been secure. I think, let me see. Yeah. Like I still see some of the anxious stuff is kind of like, for example, okay, in this anxious one, it says 1 has a sensitive nervous system, 2 struggles communicating needs directly, 3 tends to act out when triggered. I can only relate to struggles communicating needs directly sometimes.
Yes.
But it's like a struggle at 8 a.m., but you solve it at noon type of thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like I think of something and then I just don't know how to put it in words or to like not hurt my partner's feelings. And this is like at 8 a.m. and then by noon I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna talk to her about it. You know what I mean? It's like when I first think of it, sometimes I can't say it right away because I feel like whatever state of mind you're in will really affect this, and it's not something to take lightly. especially if you're critical of your partner.
Yes.
So if I'm gonna say something critical of my partner, I have to think like, oh, am I thinking this because she accidentally dropped like this jar on my foot just now and I'm just pissed at her and it's just like the situation's causing it, or is it like truly like she does things that I really don't like and I have to talk to her about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I give myself that like 1 or 2 hours to really think about it. And then 2 things happen at then. At then I resolve to say that, oh, I was just in a really shitty state. Like it's not her fault, right? I'm just like frustrated at the moment. Or I'll be like, okay, no, this is a problem. And then after that, I'll be like, I have to think of a way to talk to her about it, but we have to be in a level-headed state. But I still have to remember. And the problem I get is sometimes I forget.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have to remember to talk about it. It's like, you know how some people it's like, oh yeah, you don't want to like bury these feelings too much or you'll start to grow resentment and shit.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think that people speak without thinking too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where they're like causing a problem when there shouldn't be a problem, right? It's like
so.
Is there a problem or are you just hangry right now or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So then I try to take the balance of the two. I'll be like, okay, if this happens like more than 3 times in a duration, then I'm like, okay, we had to talk about this. It's a problem. Mm-hmm. And then if it happens once, I'd be like, okay, this is how I'm feeling, but I'm not 100% sure if it's her fault, if it's my fault, or if it's like just life fault. Like just life's being really shitty right now, right? So that's why I said that anxious one is like, yeah, sometimes I have a problem like speaking to her about like what I think is serious things, but then sometimes at the moment I think it's serious when it shouldn't be serious.
Do you think that's entirely anxious though?
I think that's like a leftover of what I used to be too, you know what I mean? Because like definitely back then I would be kind of anxious to talk about these things or whatever this is. What was it again? Struggles communicating needs directly, because I do feel that from my previous relationships.
Like you overthink something that should be pretty simple type of thing.
Yeah. But then now it's it feels more like good flow, good logic. But I do give myself that kind of rule. It's like, oh, if it bothers me this much, I'll speak up. So I think I'm like more secure, but I don't think it's like it's not analog.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a range, I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah, how about you?
And so you're more secure now, you would say?
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty confident with me.
I would say that I've always been more secure,
right?
But I would say during my last relationship, I did have also some habits or some issues or moments when I was slightly anxious.
Okay.
Like the part where not knowing how to express yourself or having troubles expressing how you feel.
Yeah.
That part. And then in this list, it says the second point, overly optimistic view of others. I felt like I had that too. And then also number 6, elevates others and partners above yourself.
I see.
And then the other part would be fails to set healthy boundaries or to like uphold them, I would say.
You know, with this new list, I feel like I'm not even anxious. I am not overly optimistic view of others. Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, okay. Well, maybe I would say like a little bit anxious. Like very little.
Mm-hmm. And I would say the part where it says in conflict, you fear abandonment.
Oh.
Yes. I would say I felt those things before in my relationship, but I felt like they were relationship specific. Because outside of the relationship or like how that relationship went, I wouldn't be secure.
But so sometimes for me, it goes back to, it begs the question, like, is that just who you are in a relationship?
Oh, it could
like
be.
you could be personally, individualistically super secure.
Yes.
But for some reason in relationships, you're in this like worse state. No, I'm not saying it's super bad, but so like for me, for example, I think individually I'm like extra super duper secure.
Yes.
I only have like slight insecurity when it comes to like say like my career when I'm unsure of things, but at the end of the day, I'm not too worried about that.
Yeah.
But then in relationships, this is a weird one. Okay, in relationships, I find that my partners are a little bit more avoidant and I'm not sure if it's because of how big my ego is or how big my personality is. I think usually in my relationships, my partners are like they don't like to talk too much about stuff, but I'm always pushing them to like speak their mind more, right? Like I always want them to.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think like, oh, maybe like, you know, it's just how it goes. But if it happened more than once, like for me, I was like, maybe this is like my fault. Like maybe I'm being too overbearing and stuff. Because if it happens in more than one relationship, like maybe it's me. Right? That I still haven't figured out. Because like I think Joyce is sometimes avoidant. Like sometimes she doesn't want to talk about specific things.
Yeah.
But overall, she's like on the secure side. But I know like some stuff. When it gets difficult, she's a bit avoidant. But I'm not sure if it's like a relationship thing or like a life thing. Because I think it could just also be a life thing.
That makes a lot of sense. I feel like I was more anxious in that one specific relationship because my previous relationship to that, I was completely secure.
Oh, okay.
And then now I feel like I'm also very secure to the point where I see slight glimmers of avoidant. And in the sense of avoidant, I see things like, I'm like, oh, I don't need anyone else. Or for the examples in this avoidant list that we have here, it says like tends towards self-reliance. And I say I do that like all the time. And then
I just think that's healthy. I don't know.
I see it as healthy, but I can see moments where I feel like I am more so very self-reliant and very independent to this point where
it could be a bad thing.
It could be a bad thing, but I think it's healthy.
No, like
I can see how in some lights it can be almost a bad thing.
No, it's good for you, but I don't think it's always good for the relationship. Because, like it sounds shitty, but sometimes I have to force a responsibility on Joyce or any of my other partners, with the express knowledge that this might fail.
Yes.
As whatever task I've given them may or may not succeed. But if I don't let them try to do it themselves, I feel like it won't advance anything.
What do you mean by this?
Like for example, like okay, if we're going on a trip, all right, and let's just go hypothetical, even though it's obviously hypothetical, draws on some real experiences, right? I'm usually really organized. You know, I got the Excel, the Google Sheets, I'm putting all the shit in it and stuff like that, right? And then I'll tell you or whoever I'm traveling with, like, hey, I need you to go look up the places we're gonna go eat. Like, I'm gonna rent the car, I'm gonna book the hotel, I'm gonna do everything else. I just need you to do this one task.
Yeah.
Knowing that you may not even do it.
Oh, I think we talked about this before, right?
Yeah, but then I'll be like, if I don't just like give it to you guys, then I'm just gonna like literally be babying everyone. Right?
Yes.
And it's not just like within friends, it's like in my relationship too, right? It's like if I don't give my partner this task or whatever task, then I'll just be doing everything and then it's gonna set a precedence forever, right? So then sometimes I'll give the task knowing very likely they're gonna fail. or not, or maybe it's not very likely. Let's just say there's a 50% chance they're gonna fail.
Yes.
But at least I won't give them the task of like booking the hotel or renting the car, because that's the shit we really, really need, right?
Would you say that's avoidant almost?
Like I'm
you
avoiding
can't
to do it.
trust someone to do that in that way. Like you're like, okay, if this isn't, I'm gonna give them a task that isn't so important because the important things I can only trust myself to.
Yeah. No, like this in the avoidant one, number 2 says pessimistic view of others. Like, I think they're gonna fail because in the history of our relationship, it has yet to succeed. But that doesn't mean I can't or I shouldn't give them that responsibility because I still need them to contribute in some way.
Yes, I can see that.
Right. So actually, this is not even just in a relationship. Like even amongst my friendships, I'm usually quite the responsible one.
I can see that. You did that for our LA trip, right?
Yeah, and just in general, like this is why I don't actually like planning events. So like within our groups, I don't like planning events because when I plan it, I want it to be like optimal.
Yes.
Right? Like I don't want suboptimally planned events.
Yes.
But I also don't plan events too because sometimes you'll have the person who's not planning at all just say like, oh, this sucks. And I'm like, well, fuck you too, right? So then I'm just like, okay, fine. I'm just not gonna do it. Like I really don't care that much to succeed in this event if it doesn't matter to me that much, right? Like for example, if it was my birthday party I'm planning, which is kind of pretentious, then yeah, I would care because I'm planning it and it's for me, right?
Yes, I can see that.
Or if I'm paying money to go on a trip, like I want a really good experience when I'm there. So then I'm gonna put effort to make sure that there will be some minimal level of success. But then I would still try to give tasks to other people that are like, I don't care as much, but it will still affect the trip, kind of thing like that, right? I'd be like, oh yeah, go find the restaurants we want to eat at, or like, oh hey, can you look up? I'm trying to think of other stuff. Like when the tickets are that we have to go to this thing, or when the shows are and things like that, or like, you know, daily activities, or like, hey, where's the nearest Costco to the airport?
Food place for this dinner, blah, blah, blah.
Just like, hey, here's something to do, so it feels like you're still involved with the planning part of the trip, but I'm not gonna give you the big boy keys and stuff. Right?
You'll be a great father one day.
I don't know actually, but anyway, so like this attachment style isn't just related to relationships, right?
No, it can be for anything.
Yeah,
really. It's just your how you interact with other human beings, essentially.
I think the same way I treat like what I just explained, I would probably treat my kids too. I'd be like, I need them to take the risk, but the risk can't be like running onto a street with lots of cars.
Yes.
The risk can be like, oh, running in the playground and falling down and hurting their knee.
I would do the same.
Right.
I think you need to live and learn sometimes.
Yeah, like I need them to fuck it up a little bit, but I can't like have them lose an arm.
Yes.
Right.
I agree. I don't know if I'll let them break an arm or a leg, but I'll let them get bruises and cuts and shit like that.
I wouldn't
let them cry.
I wouldn't intentionally let them like break an arm or leg, but
no.
But at the same time, if they, I don't know, like if they want to jump off this, like jump off the swings or something like that, I'm like, I think they might hurt themselves. But then I'll be like, I think they have to take the bruise.
Yeah.
Like I think they have to take this one to learn.
Is that a good choice?
Either this time or next time, but they're gonna have to learn one day.
I agree. I think if they're really reckless, then I'd be like, all right, I just need you to think about all the risks that you're taking here, and if you still think it's worth it, all right.
Yeah.
If it's not, to a degree.
It's hard to say too because, for example, right now I have a sore back, right, and it's literally because of lifting, in my opinion. Like I feel like that's where it came from.
Yeah. Like
I would, from my personal experience, I think I would push people younger than me or like my kids, for example.
Yeah.
To really like look at those limits and not like go push it. Like it's not worth it.
Oh yes.
But I feel like if they have a similar stubbornness as me, what I say won't really matter to them.
Like if they were like
I don't want them to learn this lesson through experience, but I feel like they will learn it through experience. If they have any level of stubbornness similar to mine, then they will learn it through experience.
I can see that. If they were trying to go to the gym and they started deadlifting and they came to me, and my kids told me, if I ever have kids, they told me that, hey, my back is kind of hurting whenever I do deadlifts. It feels like it's pinching somewhere. I wouldn't be like, keep trying.
That's what you would say?
I would not.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't.
I would tell them you're doing something wrong. You're going to fuck up your back if you keep doing that. Go learn the form without any weights first before you try any harder.
Yeah, but like, then it goes to the question, like, if you say, very common in Canada, you enroll your kid in like hockey or something like that, right? Like, you don't want them to get a concussion, but it feels like a very inevitable part of the sport.
In a way, I feel like for things like that, I would still try and get them to avoid it. Yeah. Because I feel like a concussion could lead to something more serious.
Yeah. But I guess my worry is like, how do I address that to them without them feeling like you're overbearing, right?
I kind of liked how my parents taught me in this sense for a lot of these things. They never treated me like a little kid, or they never PG'd anything. They just told me everything how it was and how it is, like you would tell an adult.
Yeah.
And basically told me, all right, so these are the risks and these are what can go wrong. You make your own decision in that way. Like, you know how when you're a kid, your parents might not tell you about like, oh, this is how babies are made, or this is how like taxes work, or this is how like I don't know, this or that happens, my parents would tell me fucking everything without any censorship, anything at all. Like, they would never lie to me or like baby me as if I was a kid. They would tell me everything straight up as if I was an adult, which I actually really liked. I think it killed my innocence in my childhood, but I actually really liked how I like never had that veil on me.
I think my parents were more anxious with me for sure. And I feel like I would probably project that to my kids a bit. Like, some of it, it's so hard. It's so weird. It's like, for example, I would be down to get a motorcycle. Like, I have my license. I could ride one. But at my current age and the things I see in life, I wouldn't do it. Right. But if you asked me like 5-6 years ago, I'd be like, it's not a bad idea. Right. But if my kids wanted one, I'm like, no fucking way. Like, this is fucking dangerous. Like, you don't want to see them, like, it's like that fine line of you want them to be able to take risks, but you don't want them to fucking die.
Yeah.
Right. So I get it when like my parents don't want me to get one too. Right. I was like, okay, I kind of get it. And then at my current age, it's like, yeah, I don't even really want one that badly. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a risk. Like, I know enough friends who's gone into accidents or it's got really bad. It's like, it's a risk I don't need to take. Right. But I'm kind of like comfortable taking that risk myself, but not comfortable in someone lower than me taking that risk.
I can see exactly what you mean. I also wanted to ride a motorcycle, but I know because I love adrenaline and I love speeding when I can. I don't really do it now, but I love the vroom-vroomness. I rode a motorcycle when I was in Thailand because they don't care if you have a license or not. And it was so much fucking fun. But I just know on a daily basis, if I had my motorcycle license and if I bought my own motorcycle, I would abuse that shit and I'd probably get in an accident. And I feel like any accident when you're in a motorcycle is a big accident.
Yeah. No, I feel the exact same way. Like, when I was riding it, it was one of the funnest things I've ever done. But I could also automatically feel like, oh, like, I can see why it's unsafe.
Yeah.
Also because I used to bike to school all the time and like cars just don't care about you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a bicycle, like, cars don't give a fuck about you. So like a motorcycle isn't that much bigger than a bicycle. So I was like, oh fuck, man, I don't know if these cars can see me if I'm on that either, right? So I'd be worried about that. And I could also be like, I can feel the adrenaline. So like, I know this could be really, really fun.
I know.
But I also know it takes like even just like one little pothole that I didn't see, and it could just fuck me up really bad. So it's like, I don't know, it's a risk I'm not as willing to take.
I agree. Now. I don't know exactly how I would navigate that as a parent.
Yeah.
I was saying like, hey, I know like you can do whatever the fuck you want to do technically.
Yeah.
But I think it's too dangerous for you to do it. I don't know how I would navigate that line between...
You gotta make more kids so if one goes.
Between saying like, oh, I don't really want you to because I feel like this, but it's also your choice.
Yeah.
Like, at the end, it's obviously their choice. They can do whatever the fuck they want, but
it's tough because like, I want them to... I would want anyone... Let's just say not even my kids, like my little cousins. Like, I want them to experience some of the things I experienced so then they can learn. But some of the risk, I feel like is not necessary.
Yeah, I agree.
And even right now, like, just thinking back, I was like, man, some of the risk I've taken, I was like, maybe I shouldn't have done that.
Like what?
Okay, so when I was in high school,
Uh-huh.
I loved snowboarding and I went a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And like, now that I think back, I was like, I think I was underprepared for like maybe some of the black diamonds that I did back then.
Uh-huh.
And if I were to go to like a ski hill now, I haven't skied in like 2 or 3 years. I probably wouldn't even touch that stuff anymore. I'd probably be like, I just want like a nice relaxing day, and I don't want to like feel like shit after, because if you don't go often, your whole body gets sore.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I've experienced that so many times from ski trips. So now if I ever were to go back, I'd be like, you know what? I'm just gonna chill, have a great time, and not like, I don't need that like crazy risk of life, and I could still get the adrenaline that I want. But yeah, like there's no way I could explain that to someone younger. Like, yeah, it's a risk they can't take. But I like, for me, it turned out fine, and probably for a lot of people it turned out fine. But I know a lot of people has like pretty bad skiing accidents where like they tear something in their knee or something like that.
I can see that. That's what happened to me.
And I was just like, oh, it's just like, it feels so unnecessary.
I agree. I feel like that would still be within my realms of you live and you learn.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I don't think you'll die. You could probably badly injure your knee or like break a leg or whatever. But I would imagine that at some point you would be like, oh, this is kind of dangerous. I should slow down. And when you get to that point of like breaking a knee or a leg, then you obviously it's like
but even
a mistake, obviously. But you know, not like you're like, oh, I'm going to take this big risk and do this jump type of shit.
like, okay, so I know we're kind of diverging from attachment. We're just talking about risk right now. But even leg injuries, like any of the CLs being torn or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like when I think about that, like knock on wood, and I hope this never happens to me. I have not teared one before, but I can only imagine the regret in my mind when it does happen, if it does happen. It's just like, this was so unnecessary for me to do. For example, if it happened in volleyball, it's like, unless it was a freak accident or like a normal play and it just gave out, if it happened when I was like overexerting myself, I was like, dude, this is a rec sport. Like, what are you doing here, right? Like, you have so much more to live for. Like, you have all these other like walks and hikes and exploration in your world that may be in jeopardy now because of this, right?
I can
like,
see that.
I feel like I'm making it sound like very crazy and intense, but I feel like it should be that serious because, like, no matter how many surgeries or how much physio you do, I feel like that leg's never going to be the same again.
I can see that. And you have to continuously maintain your physio or else it's going to come back.
Yeah, so then it's like that 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds of overexertion could literally change the rest of your life forever. Like, even for me right now, that back pain, I like still regret it right now. I was like, fuck, like why did I overexert myself, right?
Yeah.
And it's just like, fuck. Like, I feel like I'm still getting lucky. Like, I've never like torn anything crazy in my legs. I never like really broke anything.
Yeah.
And I did like dislocate my shoulder once, and I still regret that now. I was like, I didn't need to exert myself that much.
I can see that for sure because your example with skiing, I actually did that. When I was first learning how to snowboard, I went on fucking blacks.
Yeah.
And on one of the blacks, I went down. I was like plowing the fucking hill because I was too scared. Yeah. But then, even though I was plowing the hill, I still went down a little too fast at one point, and I freaking flipped, and I accidentally had minor tears in both my medial meniscus, and I had to get lifted down.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and then after that, I couldn't like. I remember when I got there, I like couldn't walk properly. Like when I got all the way down to the bottom, because they're like, "Oh, are you able to get into this vehicle so we can drive you to the emergency or whatever?" Like that. I couldn't actually walk because both my legs were fucking locked in the bent position, and I couldn't straighten them at all.
Oh.
And it hurt so fucking badly.
But the crazy thing too with skiing and stuff is like that's the stuff like for a fact that happened. But I feel like there's so many people who like fell, hit their head, and then they just go about their day. But for sure they're concussed. Like if you saw it from like a third person view, like that person's concussed for sure.
That happened to me too.
Yeah.
So on the same trip, like the day before, which is so stupid because that trip I was trying so hard to learn how to snowboard.
Yeah.
The day before, we went 2 days. The day before, I also went down black.
Yeah.
I had a concussion because I like slipped backwards.
Yeah.
I was going down the hill, but then I like slipped back and I didn't even hit my head or anything.
Yeah.
But I think my brain or something moved too fast inside my head.
100%, yeah. That happens
and so
easily.
When I was going down, I thought my nose was just like running and I was just like casually like
it's blood.
Like, wiping it on my glove or whatever. And when I got down to the very bottom, this random person, holy shit, are you okay? And I was like, oh yeah, I'm okay. Why? What's wrong? And they're like, your whole face is bloody. And I like looked down at my gloves, and my gloves are pink, so it wasn't like very obvious that it was like all bloody. But when I actually looked down at my gloves, I was holy shit, my gloves are all bloody. And I like went to the washroom, and literally the whole bottom of my face was all bloody because my nose was bleeding the entire fucking time.
Oh, that's disgusting. I'd be so weirded out with you.
No,
to be honest. But yeah, like that concussion thing, I don't know, man. I feel like people don't understand how sensitive it is. Like even just falling from a trip, you could just concuss yourself just from your head like moving too fast and shit like that.
I agree. Or I feel like I've experienced concussions.
Yeah, and I feel like I know myself enough, and I feel like I've hopefully swallowed my ego enough to know like certain plays, for example, in volleyball or like climbing and shit. I'd be like, I'm not gonna do that. Like this is too much. Like this is like I'm not gonna like I don't care enough for this point for me to like hurt myself and not play the whole season.
Yeah.
I feel like I've learned enough lessons where it's like I don't think it's worth it. I don't care what my team says. I don't think it's worth it to actually hurt myself.
That's very valuable. It's just a point after all.
Yeah. Anyways, going back to attachments.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think my parents were very anxious. Not like, I think when it came to me, they were a lot less anxious than it was my siblings. Because like my brother being the first, my sister being a girl, and then me being the third and a boy, I feel like they were a lot less anxious. It's almost like, oh, they've done it twice already. They kind of know what's going on, like how to raise a kid and stuff.
Well, that's so okay. That would make sense for the third one, because something my parents have always said to me before was, we're being parents for the first time, and unfortunately, even though we raised your sister before, you are a completely different child from her. So it's like we're being parents again for the very first time because you're a completely different kid.
Yeah.
So I felt like both times, and even now, my parents naturally as individuals, they're very anxious people.
Oh, are they?
Yeah.
I think my parents are too risk adverse. But it's tough. Like the lessons they've learned in life. Sometimes I have to tell them, I was like, the lessons you learned in life, I need to learn those, but not from you telling me about those.
Right? I've said the same thing before, actually.
Yeah, because my parents are refugees, right? So like refugees coming from another country with nothing in their hands, coming to this world, that's already a huge life thing that they did, right? And like I can't even imagine right now if I were to just go to another country with nothing, like not even money, and just try to like figure out my way, right?
I feel like my life's gone to shit.
Yeah. So like the fact that they were successfully able to do that and start a family, I was like, okay, like that's good. I have a lot of respect for that. But then because of that too, I feel like a lot of refugee or immigrant parents are very risk averse when it comes to their family. They're like, you know, take the safe track. Like I feel like
see why though.
Yeah, like the whole reason they say it's like, you know, doctor, engineer, lawyer is just because statistically or not even statistically, anecdotally they made the most money.
Yeah.
So that means the people they knew that made the most money, that they knew made the most money, were usually in those three fields. Right?
Yeah.
I think thinking back now with my new knowledge and a new generation, I wouldn't even say that. Like I would say, if you want the most surefire, risk adverse way to make a lot of money, I would be like, go into trades or something. Like go into trades that is like pretty rare right now, or like there's not as much of them.
Yeah.
And you're probably gonna make like way more than any of those, at least in the first 5 years. And then the latter 5 years, if you're smart and you know how to play your cards right, you could still make more money than them like later on too.
Yeah.
But I feel like our parents didn't know that. Like they only saw like, oh, doctors make a lot of money, right? Or lawyers or engineers or whatever else, right? So that's why they're like, to them, that's what risk adverse meant.
It's very interesting because my parents are very anxious and also risk averse, but when it comes to career, they were never like that. Interestingly enough, they just told my sister and I, like, just do something that makes you happy. Just try your best.
Yeah, that was same with my parents. But I think something about one being the third kid, it was just like, okay, well, it doesn't matter too much. And then I also think that at some point, and I don't know when they learn this or when any parents learn this, that it's really fucking hard. So like having immigrant parents, they never went through university. So like the struggles they go through are very like stressful and directly related to your basic needs.
Yes.
But the struggles of going through like university is a totally different type of struggle.
I can see that.
And I felt like by the time it got to me, they started understanding like, oh, like it's not like everyone else. Like you don't just go to university and instantly succeed in life.
Yes.
Right. And I think they finally realized that, and they're just like, you know what, just do whatever that makes you happy. I don't really care what you make and stuff. And for them, I guess it's good or it's helpful that during their generation, you know, it was easier to like get a house and shit like that and get kids and things like that. Like now it's a lot more difficult to do it. And I feel like that's one of the biggest reasons why the population, at least the non-immigrant population in Canada, is probably declining, I assume.
I think I actually listened to a podcast on this too this week, and I believe that I think it was called reproductive rate right now. It's 1.8, but it needs to be 2.1 in order to continuously maintain the world's population. It should be 2.1.
2.1 means, what does that mean? Is every
the
one
amount of
person?
Kids you should have.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, like 2.0 makes sense, right?
2.1.
I know, but like 2.0 as a minimum makes sense because it means that every parent, which is 2 people, makes 2 kids, and then when those parents die, those 2 kids will continue, right? It'll like kind of like replace them in the society. Right?
But right now, the statistics is 1.8, and I heard that it's dropping to 1.6 soon.
It's actually very scary. I think I think I talked about this last week, but like Elon Musk kind of talked about like this was what he thinks is the downfall of empires. It's not just like all these bad things happening, but it's literally they stopped making kids. They're like, you cannot have a empire or a civilization continue if you don't have people, right? Like that's like the minimum requirement for longevity and future, right? I was like, fuck, I feel like they make it so hard to do it, and I think it's built in. So like I think I was listening to something else, and they're saying that the problem is as people get older, there's more people in your society at the higher age range.
Yeah.
And they vote on things that benefits them more. So then it makes having a family even harder because now you have more of the social services going to retired or nearly retired age people, whereas the social services won't go to like the young family anymore because they're voting. They have more numbers in voting now.
Yes.
Right. So it's like literally the politics change with the generation and age.
Yes.
And it makes it even harder to grow out your younger generation. Like 100%. I mean, this sounds weird. But if the barrier of entry was a lot less, I think I would consider it. You know what I mean?
For what? Barrier of entry of what?
To having kids. Like if it didn't cost so much to buy a house and to like feed a kid and all this shit, I think a lot more people would be like, oh, okay, I think I can do it. Right?
Like, you don't feel like you have to have so much more prepared and in line before you have a child. Yeah,
exactly. Like if houses were 25% of the cost of what it is right now, I think even just that, people would be more inclined to be like, okay, like I think I can afford getting a place and starting a family. Right. Even though that's not a requirement, it just like feels like a requirement.
Yes.
Right. And I feel like that's just, I don't know, it just makes it so hard to push that agenda.
I agree. And I feel like with so many things that occupy your time nowadays, you have to be willing to give up so much more of your time.
Yeah, like life's just too good now.
Yeah, life is too good and also too busy. Back in the day, I felt like it was very common and a lot more easier for a household to run off of one income.
Yes.
And so the mom can just not work and then spend so much time with the kids and do all that, or the dad, whatever you be it. But now it's more commonplace for both parents to work.
Yeah.
And then so you don't really have time to actually raise your kid. And if you actually want to enjoy your life by yourself or like as an individual, like you have hobbies and all that stuff, then it takes up even more time aside from your regular work.
Oh, I feel like just even the fact that I think right now it's easier to get into hobbies than it was back then. Like back then I felt like you had nothing to do, so you just made kids.
Yeah.
But like now it's like, oh, I want to start racing cars. Okay. And then boom, you have 300 videos of showing you how to get your first car to modify. And then boom, you have another 1,000 videos of how to like, you know, buy these mods, where to buy and all this stuff.
There's this whole community that you can instantly join.
Yeah. And there's no barrier of entry to join these things except for like some money to actually invest in it, but it's like your hobby, so you want to. And then the learning part's so much easier now, right? Like back then you'd be like, oh fuck, I don't know how to work with cars. Okay, I'm not gonna do this hobby. It's like way too much, right? I'm just gonna, you know, fucking look at birds and shit or whatever, or whatever else is boring. Like what I think right now, if I don't have video games, I think I'd be kind of bored. Yeah. Like I think I'd have some other hobbies to do, but I feel like it may not occupy my time enough. And I also feel like if you're that bored, you might be just inclined to be like, oh, let's just get a kid. Like there's nothing else to do.
I agree.
Yeah. But now it's like, no fucking way, man. I can play all these fucking video games. I can like VR, porn, everything.
There's so much to experience the world. Why the fuck would I want kids yet?
Yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's tough. It's a rough thing. I don't know what's gonna happen in the future with that. Anyways, again, going back to the attachment thing.
Yes.
What do you think your partner's attachments were?
Avoidant, 100%.
Like all of them that you've ever had?
I would say the first one was anxious and the second one was avoidant.
Oh, really? Like,
yes.
But you don't think they're also like a spectrum type of thing like that, right?
I would say that everyone's a spectrum, but if I were to name one specifically and the most obvious trait, I would say, my last one would be avoidant and the one before that would be anxious for sure.
That's kind of interesting because you always look in the history with 100% vision. But it's hard to say how the future or the present might look like.
That is true.
Like, what if every other partner you get is also the same thing? Then you're like, you kind of have to go back and think, like, is it me?
Am I the problem?
I mean, like, I think that's a very natural thought, right?
Yeah,
it's like,
it's common denominator.
yeah. It's like if every girlfriend you ever get is a very specific way, or every boyfriend you ever get is a very specific way.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing is like maybe you're attracted to that thing.
Yes.
Like, for example, if you're attracted to very creative people, maybe they don't have, say, the skill or the attention span to like create a budget, for example.
Yes.
Like that, right? So, and maybe because of that, they're more avoidant than they are secure or anxious, right? They just don't want to do it because they don't care to do it, right? So then the question goes back to like, are you naturally attracted to avoidant people? Or is it the fact that because you're attracted to creative people and most creative people are more likely avoidant?
Oh, interesting. I do think that a lot of my history was based off of not knowing myself enough,
Right.
and not having enough like self-love in order to like demand for certain traits.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So now you'd feel like you're more confident you can like demand for like human 2.0, like
Yeah, decency.
the ultimate person.
Yes. Or I'd rather be alone.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes. I'm very okay with that.
Oh, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's a me thing or maybe it's a guy thing, but I think it's maybe more so me thing. I wouldn't be completely okay alone.
Oh yeah. Why is that? I'd be completely okay. When I think about my future and everything, it was always alone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I mean, that companionship is kind of nice. And it's not the same as a dog either.
Oh yeah, it's not.
That companionship. But I wouldn't go to the extreme to lower my standards just to fulfill that.
Yes.
But at the same time, I kind of think of myself too. So like when I think, okay, I want that companionship and I'm looking for Miss Perfect, but I'm not Mr. Perfect either.
Yeah.
So it's like, is that too much of an ask? Right?
Oh, it's just saying.
Because yeah, okay, I deserve the best. Everyone deserves the best. Whatever, super DEI woke talk, right? Like, yeah, everyone deserves. But still, like, you can't expect to marry Mr. Billionaire, super fit, and all that shit if you work at Walmart as a greeter. You know what I mean? It's like,
I see what you mean,
right? You know what I mean? So it's like you can't expect that either. So like sometimes I am trying to look for Miss Perfect, but then I also think back to myself, like, hey, I'm not perfect either. Like, is it right for me to look for that, or just like try to make myself perfect so then I can achieve Miss Perfect?
I think that's why I'm very okay with being alone.
Okay.
Because I feel like if I focus on myself and I work on the things that I want to work on in my life and develop everything as if I was gonna always be alone, then if something works out, then something works out. And I won't be looking for something I won't be overly critical of someone being perfect if I focus on myself enough in that sense.
I see.
Yeah.
Do you have a fear like one day it's just gonna be like you? Like,
no, not at all.
Like all your friends are all, have family and shit. They're all too busy now, and then it's just you here.
No.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like I've never ever had that fear growing up, ever.
Oh. Damn. Interesting.
Yeah. Because my view is that my definition of being independent is that I should view life as, regardless of I ever find anyone or not, doesn't matter. I should be completely fine and happy and secure being by myself and being able to support myself and doing everything by myself. And if I feel like I need to look for someone or somebody else would add that much value into my life over me just being alone, then to my definition, I feel like that would be not being independent to its fullest extent.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Because that would mean that I would feel like I need someone there at some point, if that makes sense.
Kinda. Like, it kind of does, it kind of doesn't to me.
Yeah.
Because statistically speaking,
yeah,
people who are alone will die earlier.
Oh yeah, I heard that too.
So then it's almost like, for me, I was like, if I was alone, I would still make attempts to find a partner.
Yeah.
with knowing the fact that it's pretty optimal for life. Like it's optimal for your life to have a partner in terms of happiness, living longer, having a healthier life, even economics. It's just optimal. Like the most optimal thing is if I had like a group marriage, for example, right? Or like me and like
7 wives.
Like me and 7 wives, but they're all working too.
Yeah.
And we all live in like one big house. Like, you know how optimal that'd be? Like literally rent would be like $300 a person because like we only need so much, right?
Yeah.
And we would like be able to sustain like some crazy stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you want to optimize for economics, right? And
Sounds
then
like you belong in India.
yeah, I wish I was a sheik from like fucking from the Middle East.
Oh yeah.
But then maybe 7's not the right number. You know what I mean? Like, as in, there's probably some insecurity when you have that many wives and shit.
Yeah.
Somewhere,
You're gonna forget somebody's name.
Yeah. But at least at minimal, like one wife or one husband is already more optimal than solo.
I can see what you mean by that.
So it'd be kind of interesting because it's like, if you want the best, if you just look at the facts and the evidence and the statistics, you want the best for your life, then theoretically the best is to have a partner purely on statistics.
I can see that for sure.
Even though on like a feeling sense, it doesn't completely make sense, as in like you could technically be just super independent and stuff. So that's why, like, if I was in your shoes, I'm not giving advice, but for my personality, I would be like trying, at least attempting to. Right?
No, I can see why for sure.
Yeah.
I just have no natural desire to.
Like I would like force myself to have that natural desire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, I may not have that natural desire right now, but it's a life thing. It's like, I can tell you riding a motorcycle is riskier.
Yes.
Right? But you may or may not know, and you may not or may not want to go through that. Or like, okay, that's a bad example, but I can say, like, for example, if we found out that drinking Pepsi gives you dementia one day, right? It's like, you know, it's a risk you may or may not want to take. I could tell you about it and you may or may not want to take my advice, but not taking my advice has so much higher consequence than just taking my advice, right?
I can see that. I feel like the one part that also makes me very avoidant, but makes me not want to try to put in extra effort to find somebody is because I feel like it's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For things when it's inorganic.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. But at the same time, playing devil's advocate, if you put zero effort in, then it probably won't happen. You know what I mean? Like, if there's zero effort put into it, it's very easy to become the crazy cat lady.
I can see that for sure.
Right.
For some reason, I'm fully okay with that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Won't be cats, but
the crazy dog lady?
No, it would not be dogs. I don't know if I would get another dog if Lumi was gone.
Humans? You could get pet humans.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a human trafficker.
Yeah, that's cool. That's interesting.
Okay, the reason why I brought up personal attachment styles, I was very curious what yours is.
Yeah.
But also on the podcast, they mentioned that this point I thought was really cool. They mentioned that in America, when we study attachment styles, the same attachment style would be labeled differently in Asia, for example. Like, the example that they gave was if you had a kid that was in a room with their caretaker, their mom, and the mom left, if the kid started crying when the mom leaves, then in America, they would see that as an insecure attachment style or an anxious attachment style.
Right.
But that same result in Asia would be labeled as a secure attachment style. And the reason for that is because America and Canada is a very individualistic society. Yeah. When the kid leaves, when they're away from their caregiver, then we would see that as, oh, you can't handle yourself when you're independent. Yeah. So you're anxious or you're an insecure attachment style. But because the environment in Asia is they're very much about their community, when the kid cries when their mom or caretaker is gone, then they'll see that as a secure attachment style, because it would mean that the kid felt so secure with their parent being there that they obviously know that something is wrong when the parent isn't there.
Yeah.
And so that would be labeled as secure attachment style. So I thought that was so freaking interesting how the same result can be labeled completely differently in other places of the world. And so something that they brought up in the podcast was because a lot of people have ethnic backgrounds from different places, but you can be like an Asian in Canada, so you'll have like a mix of both cultures.
Yeah. Which
culture do you think you would adhere to more if you given this kind of result? Like if you say that if you have anxious attachment styles, do you think you could flip some of them to better adhere to how Asians navigate their community and their environment and how they navigate their interactions with the people around them versus in America?
I would lean more to the Asian side.
Oh, interesting.
Not specifically because of that, but I think it was, again, I'm just quoting this random podcast. It was another podcast I listened to with Joe Rogan. He talked to this one guy. I forgot his name, but he's psychologist and stuff, and he was talking about like raising kids. And what he was saying is like, I think here it was like, oh, walk away from your kid and they'll get used to, like you not always being there and stuff, and it's like easier for them to like be independent and stuff. But he was also explaining that like he thinks that's BS. Like he thinks that doesn't actually work. The whole premise is saying like you want to teach your kid to be independent, a little bit like jaded, like not trust the world too much because it's like painful and stuff and hurtful. But he was saying like you don't need to teach your kids that lesson because the life and the world will already teach them that. What you should teach your kid is more empathy and love, because that's the one thing that the world may or may not teach him. So like he's almost like kind of saying like it's guaranteed that your kid will go through shit in life. Yeah. And it's guaranteed it's going to hurt and it's going to be really hard on them, right? So why should you go and test them on this all the time just to make sure they're prepared? Like he was saying, like you rather show them that it is possible to be empathetic and it's possible to care and it's possible to do that unconditionally.
Yes.
And then they can learn the hardships of life naturally, which will always happen. Like regardless of how good their life is, it's always going to be difficult at some point, and they're going to learn it. And maybe at first they're going to, rely on you to get them through it. But they'll always face it regardless. As in like that challenge is always there. You don't even need to present that challenge, but love will not always be there. So it's something you must teach and you must present to them, because it may or may not be there in the future. It is pretty much his explanation is that. Yeah, like
I can see that.
It's guaranteed that life is cruel and the world is cruel. So you don't need to explicitly teach them life is cruel and the world is cruel. You should teach them that the life can be good and there can be love and there can be empathy.
I think there's a lot of value in that.
So then, again, I always like repeat this whenever I even talk to anyone about this. It's always like, hey, I don't know how to raise a kid, but I can tell you reading a book won't raise a fucking kid, because like every kid's different, right? And I wouldn't like listen to these random people saying like, oh yeah, you gotta leave your kid alone just because. I would just say like just do what feels right, right? Whatever feels right. And it's like there's a naturalness to it. He was saying like it's natural for the mom to care that the kid's crying. It's like it's literally at least as primates, it's something that's required, because you don't want the kid crying when there's prey or when there's predators around, right? So you want to soothe them and stuff. So he said like you shouldn't just push against that natural instinct just because a bunch of random psychologists tells you that that's a way to grow faster or whatever like that, right? Like I don't have kids yet, but if I did get one, it is true. Like my metric of their success shouldn't be how fast they become individualistic and how fast they become independent. It shouldn't be that. It should just be like, are they a good person or not?
I agree 100%.
So then I would go more with the Asian side, as in like I want to show them that in life there is, unconditional love, there is empathy. And you'll find out. Like the world will kick you in the face and you'll find out that life is actually cruel, but at least I'll teach you there's another side to it. Is how I would think of it. So it's not really like a attachment thing or Asian or not Eastern Western style. It's almost like me just listening to that podcast and it really resonated with me. I was like, that's true. It's true that I may or may not know that someone can unconditionally love someone. Like life may or may not teach me that, but life will for sure like kick me in the ass.
Yeah. You can at least try to teach them that.
Yeah. Like that's at least one thing that they can learn from you, and that's something they can at least pass on to either their partner, their friends, or their kids in the future. That you can actually be a good person, kind of thing. I was like, okay, yeah, it's like it's wholesome all, but it's also I feel like there's a lot of truth in that. It's like
I think so too. When you're going through a lot of shit, as you grow up, it's very hard to learn about that or have that basis of love and empathy and support if you didn't feel that growing up.
Yeah. It's like,
and that backs up a lot of your decision making factors.
It's like growing up with a jaded mindset or not a jaded mindset, right? And I feel like if you have a jaded mindset, you are at advantage in terms of you probably won't get tricked, you probably won't get scammed and stuff, but at the same time, you probably won't help others as much. And in an unjaded mindset, it's like you may or may not go through these things where you get scammed and whatever else, but at least the more you learn earlier, the more you can get through that, and you're probably more likely to help others, and that's probably gonna like the downfall of getting scammed or tricked is probably less of an impact than the exponential benefit of helping others and like building that relationship.
I agree. I fully agree.
So it's probably better going that way than the other way. But at the same time, I also feel like having immigrant parents, it's like don't trust the white man kind of thing. Like not explicitly,
yeah,
but it's like, oh, I don't want to buy that stupid insurance, or I don't want to buy, like, it's like they have the sentiment is like, oh, you trust your own community, they're gonna help you and shit like that, but don't trust this other, like these people who are trying to scam you, because they did go through that, right?
I can see that for sure.
Like them coming here, they probably had to learn that lesson the hard way, so they don't want you to. So I feel like it sounds bad, but I feel like a lot of Asians with immigrant parents here, or not even Asians, just anyone with immigrant parents here, they're naturally jaded and naturally like not trusting.
My parents are completely like that, except they are like that not just towards people of another race. Yes, they are like that mostly to people of another race, but then overall they're like that to anyone that's not family.
Yeah. Actually, that's a big one. Yeah. I think I was talking to my brother about this. It's like it's not just our parents. It's like the Asian community as a whole doesn't really trust other communities. Because they've been through some shit, right? Like they've been discriminated against, and I feel like it's not even explicit to Asians. It's like also like the brown community, like Indians, also to like the Middle Eastern community, right?
Yes. Like Hinduism versus Sikh.
Yeah, it's just it's not just that. It's just like they don't see the value proposition sometimes. So it's kind of hard to say. It's like when someone, say a professional, comes and fix something. And like, why the fuck did it cost us much? They only did that, right? They don't see all the background and the worth. And then if they were working in that position, they're like, of course I'm worth this much.
Yes.
Right? So then it's kind of like, it's hard. It's like, until you take a step back and really look at it, you don't really see it. Like when you're in those positions, you're in one or the other position. You're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Like, I'm paying him this much to do this. Or on the flip side, it's like, yeah, I deserve to get paid this much to do this thing, right? Even I fall into that trap like quite a bit often now too. Or not quite a bit often, but like I still fall into the trap, but I see the value proposition a bit more sometimes.
Or even so, I feel like in some ways, some of them will have the mindset of, oh, if I can charge this much and I'm willing to pay this much, then why not?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
true. And to their credit, if I was in their shoes, I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Like if I charge this much and people are still coming to me with work, then I'm either charging too little or the right amount.
Yes.
I'm definitely not charging too much because they're still coming me to work. If no one's coming to me for work, then that means I'm probably charging too much.
I agree. That's just basic business mindset.
But I feel like a lot of Asians are very like, oh, if we can do it on our own, we're just gonna do it on our own and stuff.
I agree. I'm the same actually, but mine is more so because I like to learn and do things by myself.
Yeah, I mean, similar and same. I feel like I have that ego and that pride. It's like, oh, I want to be able to do this for myself in the future. But some things, I can see the proposition a bit better now. Like for example, if I had to fix something on my car, it might take me literally a whole day of researching and another whole day to actually fix that thing. Whereas I can give it to someone and pay him for half a day's work and he can get it done.
Oh yeah.
and then I'll be like, okay, was it worth, like, how much am I worth in it in 2 full days of doing work, right?
Yeah, I can see that.
I think about that a little bit more now, like having a little bit more money than when I was in school. I think about that a bit more, whereas like I'm not just automatically just doing myself.
I kind of felt that way too. Whenever my car had issues, I tried to find a place that would fix it, but also if I was able to be there to like watch, like a friend that was like a mechanic or something, if I was able to be there to watch and learn, I would love that the best. But now I just bring it to my dealership almost.
Oh yeah. It's so hard because I feel like that relationship too is very strained between a car owner and a mechanic.
Yeah.
Because I feel like most mechanics are just straight up good, fair people, and then there's that little group of bad apples that just make everyone hate bringing their car to mechanics.
I agree.
Just like they're just charging a ridiculous amount for something that is probably not broken.
Yeah.
But for example, if you were to bring your car all the time to like your dealership, I feel like you build like a rapport and a relationship, and then they're like, once you build that relationship, when they say this is wrong, you kind of know they're not scamming you. They're like, okay, they know, they've seen and they felt my car for the last 5 years, and they said this is wrong. I kind of trust them on that because, you know, like they're not just here just to make money, but they also feel like this should be fixed before it gets worse, right?
To an extent, I feel like the part about the rapport that you build with your dealership is that, like with my dealership, I personally have a deal or a warranty that as long as I continue my maintenance with them, then if anything large breaks that normally isn't typically user error, then they'll cover it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And for that, if I would usually go to somewhere else, then I wouldn't have that rapport of my dealership, it would cost double, triple the amount anywhere else to fix that same thing. Yeah.
I also wish there was just like it's so weird. Like I don't have any friends that are mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I don't have any friends of friends that are mechanics. Like I kind of have one, and that's about it. I really wish I had one because I really wish I had a friend that would just go up to me and be like, "All right, this is kind of broken, but you don't need to fix it right now. You can just ride it out." And I would feel so much more comfortable because after that, if it did break and I go back to him, I'd be like, charge me whatever money it is, but you were honest with me and you gave me the best optimal solution, which was like, if you fix it now or you fix it later, it makes no difference in cost. It's just that you gave yourself a bit more lifespan on this because you fixed it a bit later and it didn't really change anything else. Right? I would 100% be like, all right, anytime anything happens, I'm just going to go straight to you now. But I feel like I haven't found that in my life, at least.
I used to have that, but then my friend kind of quit being a mechanic, but then they still give me advice. Yeah. But I do know you have some friends that are very knowledgeable in cars, but they're not mechanics. Yeah,
that's the hard part too, because if I have friends who are hobbyists in cars, their mindset's a lot different too, because they want everything optimal.
Yes.
And optimal may not be optimal for my economics in life to get me from point A to point B. Optimal is just like, oh, this looks so fucking cool, or, you know, like this looks awesome, it's matte black and all this shit. I'm like, I don't want to spend like fucking 10K on this stuff. But to them, it's like natural. It's like, oh yeah, it's a hobby that's expensive. So they just...
To an extent, I feel like they also know what is the basics of what's needed for a car. And then they would know, okay, if your XYZ was broken, then the very least that you need to do would be ABC.
I see. I feel like
I would personally do 1, 2, 3 type of thing.
I feel like I have too much of an ego too. Like a lot of times I just try to figure it out myself. I'm like, how hard can this be? And then all this shit. And then later I find out, I was like, man, this is really fucking hard. But then I just take that. Sometimes I just take that lesson. I just take it in the face.
I didn't see that.
Yeah. I don't know. In general, I feel like my ego is usually pretty big on that stuff. Whenever I have a problem in life, it's like, can I do something about it?
I'm the same.
Yeah. And it doesn't help that I have a 3D printer. So instantly I'll be like, all right, what's the 3D printed solution?
What do I need to build?
Yeah. And then I'll search online, and if no one's designed that yet, I'm just like, clearly no one's smart enough to design this. So I'm going to design this fix. And then
let me help everyone that has this issue.
Yeah. And then I'll design it. I'll put it together. I'm like, this doesn't work at all.
So this is why this isn't online.
I was like, oh, this is why no one's done this too, because this is stupid. Yeah, that's why I end up usually doing in terms of physical stuff. And
all right, I'll pay someone to do this now.
Yeah, I mean, it's still rarely I do, but usually I try my best to figure out myself. And I'd be actually really intrigued on how difficult my relationship might be in the future if I ever did get a place. Because if I had my own house, I would do a lot of this shit myself too.
I would too.
I'd be like,
everything but electrical almost.
yeah, I'd be like, fuck that. I'm learning electrical stuff. Fuck that. I'm not hiring shit. I'm going to try to do this myself or I die trying.
You get electrocuted?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess.
Well, because like I do see some people don't care enough. They're like, I'll just pay someone to do it, right?
And it seems like such an easy task.
Yeah. But then I'm like, fuck that. I don't care how much money I'm wasting. I'm doing this myself, even though it may or may not be cheaper or the same price if you hired someone to do it.
To an extent, I would do the same.
Because sometimes it being the same price as if you were to do it yourself than to hire someone is actually not beneficial to you, except the learning fact. But some things you don't need to learn.
I agree.
So for example, I never want to do my own shingles, my own roofing.
Yes.
Because it's very labor intensive.
Yes. If you fuck up, you fuck up.
But even if I fuck up, I feel like it'd still be cheaper than hiring someone. But it's just like, I don't want to do this super labor intensive thing. Like, I don't want to sacrifice my body.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if I'm going to ask someone for help, I don't want them to sacrifice their body for something like that. Right. So like sometimes if it costs the same, because like they might get some deals on like buying the raw materials itself, I feel like it's more advantageous just to get them to do it.
Oh, I agree. Or fixing your garage door.
Oh, dude, I fixed that so many times. It's so fucking annoying.
How about the spring? I heard the spring is really dangerous.
Yeah, me and my dad fixed it twice on our garage, and then afterwards, after the last garage opener died, my dad's like, "Fuck it, I'm just gonna hire someone." Now. He's like, "Fuck this shit. We're not doing this anymore."
I fixed the little latch things for like the door coming kind of like unhinged with the strings.
Yeah.
Before, but then with the actual spring itself.
Oh yeah.
I read online that it's really dangerous. I was like, you know what, Viv, this is not something you should play with.
So I think if anything ever happened to our spring, we hire someone for that.
Mm-hmm.
But then everything else not related to that spring, we usually do ourselves.
Mm-hmm. A pain, huh?
Yeah, but sometimes I really gotta just like swallow the ego and just be like, I just gotta let this other person do it.
Yeah.
But that's also back to the whole risk thing. I feel like, if my parents were more, now this is just me blaming them. Like at this age, it's on me. But my parents a lot like talked more about being risk accepting and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I may or may not be more open to like, you know, starting my own business or doing all these other fixes or getting into these other hobbies that wouldn't seem as like scary now, right? But I feel like I was grown up with risk adverse parents, so then I'm a little bit more risk adverse too.
That makes sense.
So it's like, you know, oh, I don't want to invest in like, you know, crypto and shit. It's a little, you know, risky and shit. But obviously, like hindsight is 2020, right? So like looking back, oh, that date range would have been perfect to do that stuff. But again, that's all hindsight too.
That's true. I think my parents are very risk averse too, but then when it comes to career and everything, they're very supportive in doing whatever I want to do. Yeah.
I actually realized, like, as a kid, like, looking back, you thought your parents knew everything. At least I did. And I think most people think that too. As kids. But at my current age, and the amount of shit my parents get me to do for them, I was like, you guys don't know shit. You guys are fucking stupid.
Your best.
I was like, what the fuck? How did you guys survive this long?
Wait, like traveling? I was like, how the fuck did you bring me on vacation?
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck do you know?
Were you panicking the whole time?
Yeah, but at the same time, life was different too because they didn't have the internet like we do.
True.
Like right now, I'm so confident in almost everything because, like anything they come to me, I'd be like, oh, just fucking Google it. It'll take me like 5 minutes. I'll figure out what to do, and then I'll just tell them, hey, this is what we need to do, and like 8 out of 10 times, it's the right steps. Right. But I guess living a life without internet, I guess you're a bit more like, I don't know what to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, you're a bit more confused with that stuff.
I can see that.
Your financial literacy isn't as good. Your just general literacy on things isn't as good because you don't have that much information to absorb.
I can see that for sure.
Yeah. But, like, nowadays, it's like, oh, my parents is like, hey, I don't know how to pay this tax without going to the bank. I was like, oh, give it to me. And I just Google it. And I'm like, oh, yeah. And then I just, like, online bank it for them. And they're like, yeah, done. And they're like...
Oh, that's it?
Yeah. Because, like, to them back then, it's like they had to go to the teller and then they would, like, tell them to pay it for them
Ask
and all
a
that
bunch
shit.
of questions, call in. My mom still has that habit.
Yeah.
And I always tell her, like, just do online banking. It's so much more easier. She's like, no, I need to talk to someone.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, you do you.
Yeah. No, exactly. So like thinking like when they come to me with problems now, I'm like, how the fuck did you guys raise us? Like this is fucking stupid. Like how the fuck did you not do this? But it would have raised like 3 kids. But I guess the conditions were different too.
I can see that for sure. I guess that's why traditions were very commonplace back in the day.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is tried, this is true, this worked, so let's continuously do this.
I'm curious what problems the future generation would have, and they would think the same thing of us. They're like, how the fuck do you not know how to do this? And they just go and do it in like 5 minutes, where it takes us like an hour to figure out.
I'd imagine with technology that would be pretty simple to answer. Like how our parents now, at least with my parents, they ask me for help with their cell phones or setting things up and stuff, and I'm like, oh, this is really easy. Like you don't know how to save a file on Word, or you don't know how to send yourself this document or whatever the fuck. I would imagine in the future, with AI or AR happening, I'd imagine you and I would be very up to date with a lot of this technology, but it would come very naturally to our potential future kids, for you and then for me, to just be like, you don't know how to go into this metaverse? What the fuck?
I'm curious.
I don't know.
I'm very, very curious on that, actually. Because I feel like any new technology that comes out, I feel very confident that I can figure it out and learn it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if there's like a stopping point where it's like, I'm not confident anymore. And it has to be something drastic.
Yes.
Like 1980 to now, it was literally the internet that was so drastic. Like the use of computers and internet. And that's why our parents aren't good at it, is because it was like such a drastic change. So like I wonder like what the next drastic change is. And it's probably going to be something like Neuralink chips and shit. And they're like, wait, you don't know how to connect with your brain? And they just fucking do it and they go on the thing. And we're like, I'm like just like closing my eyes trying to connect and shit. Like, what the fuck's going on?
Lost bandwidth. What do you mean?
Yeah. I mean, okay, so one thing in the book I was reading is like they're talking about like civilization is multiplanetary, and it's like kids who grew up in space, they move naturally without any gravity, whereas like people who grew up in the gravity well, it felt so clunky and awkward, and they get more nausea and stuff. I'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool too, if that might be like one of the futures, right?
Well, that would be really cool. It'd be like, oh, I know you're from space. How? Just look at the way you move.
Yeah, they just move. Like in the book, they're like, yeah, the people who like lived in low gravity or no gravity like moves very gracefully and very efficiently in space, whereas like the people who lived in Earth, even though they've worked in space for like 20 years, they still move a little clunky because it's like so unnatural to them.
Oh my god, that's crazy. That's pretty cool, actually.
I was like, oh, that sounds very realistic to how life would be if there's generations grown up in space. Yeah, that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Anything else with attachments before we end it up?
Oh, the one other thing that I thought was really cool that was mentioned in this podcast was that they mentioned that people who have avoidant attachment styles, they are more, they're less likely to orgasm when they're in a relationship than when they're having one night stands. Because they're an avoidant attachment style, when they're having one night stands, it feeds directly into their attachment style of being like avoidant than in a relationship.
I see.
Then that's why people who have like secure or anxious attachments are more likely to have like orgasms when they're in a relationship than when they're having like one night stands and stuff. I thought, oh, that was pretty fucking cool.
Oh, how about fearful? We didn't really talk about fearful. That's the fourth one. It's fearful, disorganized, overly critical view of self, view others as unreliable or hostile, seeks and avoids connection. This just seems
I feel like it's
a
mix of all of them. I'd imagine the fearful, disorganized. So I don't really understand that one that well.
May blindly trust / reactively distance, inconsistent view of self, others, partners, fluctuates between attentive and distant, inconsistent, reactive with boundaries, difficulty turning to or trusting others for comfort, care, support. It feels like this person got fucked over real hard as a child. And now they're just living a life of being a crazy cat lady or just being by themselves. That's what it feels like.
Sounds like it.
It feels super chaotic. It feels like I could deal with a little bit of
disorganized.
Yeah. Like I feel like I could live with someone who's slightly avoidant or slightly anxious, but like fearful, it'd be like living with a dog who doesn't want to be your
dog
pet. Yeah, or to be like, you know, like a stray, like not stray, but like what was it called? Like when you adopt one of the kennel dogs and stuff, but they don't actually want to be there.
Yes.
That's interesting. That's really hard too. I feel like you must be so empathetic to actually love someone like that.
I agree.
Regardless of friendship or relationship or anything. Yeah. Because I feel like I don't know anyone that's that fearful Or if I do, like maybe I just don't know them that well.
Fears intimacy me blindly. Yeah, that's pretty difficult.
Because I feel like most of the people I know is like a mix of secure, avoidant, or anxious.
In conflict, they feel suffocated and abandoned. Oh, that's pretty complex.
What? In conflict, feel suffocated / abandoned. Oh, really?
Suffocated?
Yeah, I don't know
like
about
that
this.
word specifically. In order to feel suffocated when you're in conflict, I can already imagine a lot of leading emotions that would have to lead into why you would feel suffocated specifically from conflict.
I feel like this is me projecting, guys. I feel like this isn't well studied enough. Like I feel like there's like a spectrum thing that they got to develop, like a circle or some type of shape.
Yeah.
To really outline what the reality of this is.
Oh,
Because
sure.
it literally
everything's a spectrum.
It literally feels like the top left is the best and the top bottom right's the worst. But I feel like that's not completely true. But I could be wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like there's some random shape Venn diagram bullshit thing that they can kind of create with these 4 things. Like maybe there's not just 4 attachment styles. Maybe there's actually more.
That would be chaotic.
But
I feel like this graph right here with the arrows that show that you could be slightly one or the other, or like more. It's a little bit.
Oh yeah, this one looks better. The high anxiety or low anxiety. No, it's kind of.
In a way,
it just makes like the bottom right seem like the worst thing that you can be.
it could be.
But I mean, it's weird. It's like I don't know. It's almost saying like, hey, here's a personality test. But if you go into the bottom right, if you answer the questions, you get to the bottom right, you're the worst person in the world. Right? You know what I mean? It's like I don't think that's how it works. I feel like there's some like good and bad to everything, and I feel like you can figure that out. Or I feel like there's more study needed to maybe have like more sectors or other things. But at the same time, I wouldn't be like if you were to be like, hey, do you want to submit a grant on a study about this stuff or on AI or Neuralink? I'm like, fuck this stuff. Yeah, like I'm not paying. I don't want to pay tax dollar monies to fucking study about this shit. Like I don't see this fixing the divorce rate or fixing the fucking human relationships. So fuck it. You know what I mean? It just feels like
fixing world hunger.
Yeah, it feels weird too. So like, what if you are avoidant or you are anxious? Like you went through some type of test and you found out this is your attachment styles. Like what the fuck can you do about it?
You can definitely put in like practices in order to fix that.
Yeah, like pay the psychologist who did this test for you to fix you, kind of.
In a sense, yeah.
That sounds
or
like
see like what reasons why or in what areas you're an avoidant and how that affects your life and how you can positively make a change.
If you're avoidant, wouldn't you just avoid this problem?
Probably. Unless you see that you're avoidant and you're like, damn, I can see avoidant tendencies and I don't want to be an avoidant.
I feel like the moment you see you're avoidant, you've already gone into the right steps of being secure.
Beginning steps.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't become secure if you're an avoidant and want to stay an avoidant, right?
Okay, so I guess what I'm thinking is like, what are the possible actions you can take that you can learn from this? And I feel like the only thing I can take is that you want to be top left. So if you see any traits that are not top left, you want to start learning about them. But then you must have the right attitude, ego, and everything to actually do that.
I agree, but I don't think everyone always wants to fix themselves, you know?
That's true too. Then they're just avoidant.
Or they don't. Yes, or they just don't care.
That's true too. That's true.
They're like, this is how I am.
Yeah. If someone was super successful, but like super avoidant, they're like, fuck it. Like, I make butt ton of money.
Yeah,
and
fuck everyone else.
I live a great life. I'm just going to keep avoiding these problems. And yeah, okay, that's true too. Yeah, no, it's interesting because like that's the only thing I can kind of like connect. Usually like, say like personality tests or any of this stuff. I personally always think like one, they're fun. They're just straight up fun. So there's like an enjoyment factor to it. But two, it's like, what can you do with this information? And sometimes I'm like, some of these things, apply this
so that's actually useful, right?
Yeah, like some of these things, these like personality related things, I feel like someone just made up just for fun that has like no implications of.
You don't think there's actually studies behind this?
I feel like there's minimal studies and that are based purely on just surveys. And yeah, statistically, even if you lie on survey, the truth will come out. If statistically it works out. So if your sample size was 8 billion, then it doesn't matter if you lied. The facts will still come out.
Yes.
But if you're one of 5 that was surveyed, then you can fuck everything up for fun, right? Like, you know what I mean?
You're right. I think if I ever saw a study that had a survey pool or a study pool of 5 people, I'd be like, I ain't reading whatever the fuck this is.
Yeah. But the other thing too is like they'll create these, but I always think back, like, what's the, like, can they provide some use to it afterwards with these personality tests, right? Like, other than the fact that maybe you know yourself, but like if you need a personality test to know yourself, like you don't really know yourself then.
Yeah.
Right? Like that you still need more exploration. You're just like agreeing to something that this chart says. You don't actually know yourself, right?
I agree.
You know a type of yourself, but hey, this is my type, and Barack Obama was this type, so I'm gonna become like, no, that's not how this shit fucking works. Right?
You use it to help define yourself to get to a place where you can more actively like analyze yourself, I would say.
Yeah.
If you have a hard time putting into words how to analyze yourself and understand yourself, I could see how these could be really helpful tools.
Yeah, I guess it's helpful tools as like a first step to being a bit more introspective, to like thinking about that stuff. Interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
That's everything for attachments that I learned recently.
Cool, guys.
I thought it was really cool.
So if you guys are interested, I think we did this a while back, a long time ago. I think our very first podcast was a personality test. I think we should redo that one eventually.
Yes.
Viv loves that shit. She eats that shit up. I'm kind of okay with it. Like I said, I don't see a complete point in it, but it's fun. I do admit it's fun. It's just straight up fun. I just don't see any like crazy value that comes from it. You know what I mean? Like, what's the value proposition from this? Like, how much taxpayer money do we fund for these fucking like ENINT whatever shit? Is sometimes what I think, but I'm clearly wrong. Like, I'm clearly wrong about some of those things. But yeah, you guys check out the attachment style. I wonder what everyone else is.
Myers-Briggs type indicator test and attachment styles. I'm very curious.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah. Well, we'll see. Maybe attachment style is super useful for some people in their relationship. I wonder if there's probably someone's written some book about like how to fix all this shit.
It is. It's called Attached. I have it. Do you want to read it?
Oh. Someone made some money from this. I see.
It's a very popular book, too.
It goes back to my natural Asian community mindset. It's like, someone fucking scammed you. They made this test so you would buy this book to better yourself.
I roped me and I love this kind of shit.
Like, last note I want to talk about is like, do you think sometimes self-help books are kind of just, they're like...
I heard there's a problem if you're too into reading self-help books.
I think so too. Like, after reading a couple of them, I'm just like, brother, we're all different. I don't think this shit can be universally applied. Is what I think. I was just like, this is dumb. I was like, I'd rather just live life and learn this thing.
I would say for every 2 fiction books or non-fiction books I read, they're a self-help book.
You mean for every 2 fictional books you read? Fiction is a story.
Sorry. For every 2 fictional books I read a self-help book.
Oh, I think that's too much, but that's my personal... I think for me, I limit myself to max like 2 a year. Maximum.
I think it's just so fascinating. It's not necessarily that I think I need help. I just like learning about these things.
That's true. For me, self-help books, I always take one thing from the book and I apply it, and the rest I throw away completely.
Oh,
it's like go through 500 pages and I take like 3 pages. I'm just like, these 3 is what I'm gonna honestly try, because the other like 400 some pages I'm either already doing. Like they'll say something super obvious, like don't get into debt. I'm like, okay. Like,
amazing.
Okay. Great financial advice. But then there's only like maybe one thing, like it could be even just one quote or just half a page where we're like, okay, this is something I'm gonna like truly commit and see how I feel about that. But that's typically the most value I get out of it so far.
I say that. I bought a new one recently.
Of course you would. You would buy it too.
I love collecting books.
Yes, of course you would. Are they the hardcover ones at least?
No, it's softcover.
Oh, that's even worse. Like when you get a future bookshelf one day, you can't even have like nice hardcover.
I do have a bookshelf. Then the one that I'm gonna read next is called The Art of Thinking Clearly.
The Art.
Yes, The Art of Thinking Clearly by Rolf Dobelli.
Oh, okay, cool. I see some value in it, but it depends. Like I feel like I would read one, but I have to really know the author. I'd be like, oh, this author actually did something with their life. You know what I mean? Then I would.
It's not just someone who wrote a fucking book.
Yeah, like I would read it and take it seriously if I knew for a fact, like, oh, this guy actually is successful. Not because he sold a book, but because he did something first and then he wrote a book after.
I can see that.
But sometimes it's also a scam too. Sometimes you get lucky, you do something that creates success, and then you may not be able to like hold on to that, so then you read a book about it to like continue it. You know what I mean? But maybe that's just me again projecting and not trusting others. Right? Who knows? All right, cool. Anyways, we're gonna finish it off here. See you guys.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.
Yep, bye.